Hey, Coach.
How we doing?
Pretty good. How are you today?
Oh, it's just been just wonderful.
All right, we'll go ahead and start with an opening statement like normal, and then we'll go into questions.
All right, it was great to see everybody. It'll be a little bit longer opening statement today because we've got a lot to go over from the summer and then our trip to Europe. First thing I want to do is thank Dr. Wente, John Curry, and Lindsay Babcock for giving us the opportunity to take the trip to Europe. As you guys know, we visited London, Paris, Normandy Beach, and Amsterdam. Our trip was a custom design trip, faculty led by Arno Langbroek and Sigurd Langbroek from Lancon in Amsterdam. Arno led my last trip to Europe 3 years ago. We went to Prague, Munich, Salzburg, Vienna, and Budapest. That was through the Global Studies doctoral program at East Tennessee State University, a program that my daughter's about to finish up with her doctorate. His brother Sigurd was also our tour guide. He oversees the national youth teams in the Dutch National Federation. He's a former professional basketball player in the Netherlands. Actually went to high school in Richmond, Virginia. Lancon is the name of the company that we used in Amsterdam. It organizes short-term study abroad programs. They develop tours in different areas of study. Ours was a World War II theme. Each person was provided an 88-page syllabus, just like this right here. It's a detailed itinerary in it. We had really early wake-up calls. It was not vacation. We had 4, 5, 6 a.m. We were moving by 6 a.m. There's a detailed historical narrative on every city and every site that we visited in this guide. Every player and every person on the trip got one of these. My philosophy on a European trip or a overseas trip is pretty simple. It's books and basketball. Students at Wake, if they choose to do so, they have a wonderful opportunity to study abroad for a semester. Our players can't take advantage of that based on that we are a 2-semester sport. So a 10-day overseas trip is to me, a textbook opportunity for our players to use basketball to gain knowledge while experiencing different cultures and customs alongside their teammates. I'm constantly telling our players to use basketball, not let basketball use you. I've said this over and over and over to them. The ball is going to quit bouncing someday for our players by mid-30s if they're lucky. You know, they're going to have over half of their life left to live when they're done playing. And there's no senior tour in basketball like there is in golf or tennis. So this is an invaluable learning experience for our players to learn side by side, once again, their teammates, about European culture, local customs, traditions, and history. This was, I believe, a trip of a lifetime for them, and I think they'll remember it for the rest of their lives. We left out of Charlotte, flew to London. We came back from Amsterdam to Philadelphia to Charlotte. Once we got to Philly, a lot of our players flew home because we don't start school until Monday. We used a high-speed train from London to Paris, which was interesting, and then high-speed train from Paris to Amsterdam. We used a lot of public transportation, the tube in London, which is an experience if you've ever done that. It's like a bunch of ants down there running around. I think I looked it up, 1.2 million people or 1.2 or 3 million people a day use the tube in London. Paris, the metro, Amsterdam, the metro. We got a little just a little PowerPoint presentation here. Lucy, you want to put it up? We'll get to it. Basically, you know, guys, it was like I said, it was a lifetime experience. If you want to go to the next slide, this was at the go back one. I'm sorry. This was a picture we took at the Normandy American Cemetery right outside of Omaha Beach. This was a group picture. Okay. We went to London, and you can see some of how long we traveled. We had 48 people in our, in our group. We just took players, managers, staff, and families. We saw Buckingham Palace, Parliament Building, House of Lords, House of Commons, Westminster Abbey, Downing Street, Piccadilly Square, Big Ben. We went and toured the Olympic Stadium, the London Eye, London Bridge, London Tower Bridge. Borough Market was interesting. We took a guided tour of the Churchill War Rooms and a guided tour of the British Imperial Museum. Played game one. The Churchill War Rooms, for me, was interesting because it was really only 12 feet underground. So it wasn't as deep as you probably would imagine it was. So it probably was not relatively safe during World War II. We played the London Lions in our first game. I want to give a lot of credit to Cam's dad, Daniel Hildreth. It's the only time I've ever played an overseas game where the gym was sold out. It was incredible overseas environment for us to play in. His mom and dad were at the game. He had a bunch of family there, and Matthew Marshall's parents were there and his brothers, and they also joined us in Amsterdam. From there, we went to Paris. That's the Imperial, that's the Olympic Park. This is all London. Then we went to Paris, had a bike tour. That will probably be my last bike tour. I did wipe out, land on my shoulder and in my hip. Luckily, I didn't break anything, but I did it in front of a lot of people. I bounced up. You'd be proud of me, like Sam Hartman back there. And when he gets sacked, he bounces right up like he didn't get hurt. I did the same thing. It hurt. I tried not to rub it, but we saw a lot of really interesting things along that trip. My tour guide went way too fast for me. I wasn't very happy with her. We ate dinner in the Eiffel Tower in London. Now, on Sunday morning, we left at 6 a.m. and went to Utah Beach, Pointe du Hoc, Omaha Beach, and the Normandy American Cemetery. Before we left for London, guys, I lectured about the D-Day invasion to our team. We watched the opening scene of Saving Private Ryan. And before we start practicing, we're going to watch episodes 1 and 2 now of the Band of Brothers. I explained to them the 5 different areas, the 5 different beachheads, and then how the paratroopers came in from behind. And so now they've gotten a view of that in real life. We'll take a look at that. It was a 4-hour bus ride one way. They got a lecture from a guide on the bus 1 hour before we arrived at Utah Beach. Utah Beach, Omaha Beach, I thought was very powerful for our players to stand above and look down and try to imagine what those soldiers went through storming the beach. These people were these young men's age, and they gave up. Many of them gave up the ultimate sacrifice of their life. Pointe du Hoc was a really interesting place. There's still bomb craters all around Point. If you had been there, the pillboxes are still there. I thought it was interesting for our players to go down in those pillboxes, look high above, and imagine coming in there and trying to scale those cliffs. The man that led that charge was that assault was James Rudder, who ended up being the president of Texas A&M long before I got there. And then I actually lived right off James Rudder Parkway when I lived at A&M. Ty Appleby spent a lot of time asking questions, and I thought a lot of them were very engaged in trying to learn while we were there. Matthew Marshall's great grandfather was killed a few days after D-Day, and he's buried about 20 minutes from the American cemetery that we went to. We just did not get a chance to go and see his gravesite. But all in all, I thought it was a very emotional day and a very impactful day on the lives of our players to be able to see that, to be able to go from Utah Beach to Pointe du Hoc to Omaha Beach to the cemetery, and then a 4-hour bus ride back. But it was, all in all, it was worth it. We then took the train to Amsterdam, and we had another city bike tour, which will probably be the last one of my career. At 57 years old, I'm pretty much done with that. We did visit the Anne Frank house, which I thought was as well done of a memorial that I've ever visited, and I visited a lot of them. You can't tell from the outside, but on the inside, it's really, 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 really well done. We went to the Van Gogh Museum, and then gave the guys a day to kind of hang out. And one of the best things about these tours is they get a chance to just explore. And so and then we flew back early Thursday, I believe. I don't remember. My clock is still screwed up. I have not bounced back very well from this trip. I actually need a vacation from this trip, but it was really a very a unique opportunity, great learning experience. And again, I thank everybody that helped us do this. Summer practice. The emphasis was on elite conditioning. Number one, 10 of the 11 scholarship players are now below 10% body fat. Damari Monsanto's lost 24 pounds since the end of the season and 4.8% body fat. Davion Bradford's lost 21 pounds since he came on campus. Jao Atuka has lost 16 pounds and 4.4% body fat. He's lost. Cameron Hilder's lost 9 pounds and 3% body fat lost. Ty Appleby gained 9 pounds while losing 3% body fat. And Andrew Carr gained 6 pounds while losing 2.2% body fat. He's at 225. There's a big emphasis this summer on the 8 weeks on defense and offensive fundamentals. We're a younger, less experienced team than I had a year ago. We've only got one returning starter. Only 2 players returning who played double-digit minutes in our program last year. Cam Hildreth and Davian Williamson. There's a lot of teaching, building base of fundamentals on offense, defense, and offense. We have to establish a style of play and a lot of concepts and terminology. We ranked the players at the end of the trip based on the entire summer. Number 1 was Andrew Carr. Number 2 was Davian Williamson. Those guys are separated by 1 vote. Number 3 was Ty Appleby. Number 4 was Cameron Hildreth. And number 5 was Jao Ituka. And I think Jao is one of the hardest working players I've ever coached. Now, that doesn't mean that's the starting 5. Those are the top 5 players that we felt like, based on 10 or 11 people on our staff voting on the type of summer that they had. Stat-wise, David Williamson scored the most points the whole summer, not just overseas. Andrew Carr was second. Jao Atuka was third. Best field goal percentage was Matthew Marsh. He shot 82%. Maybe we're not playing very good post defense. I don't know. Davion Bradford had a high percentage. Andrew Carr, Cameron Hildreth. Most made threes was Davian Williamson. Damari Monsanto was second. Ituka and Carr tied for third. Best 3-point field goal percentage. Davian Williamson and Andrew Carr shot 43% from 3 for the summer. Rob McCray and Cam Hill shot 39. Lucas Taylor and Ty Appleby shot 38%. It's just turnovers. I think we still have to do better with ball security. Ituka had 62 assists, 41 turnovers. Appleby had 61 assists, 32 turnovers. Hildreth had 42 assists, 23 turnovers. Monsanto had 38 assists, 20 turnovers. Player thoughts after the overseas trip. Davian is obviously still an elite shooter or elite maker. Ty Appleby makes plays on both sides of the ball. He's got a lot of energy, plays with a lot of passion, a lot of energy. Jao Ituka can get in the lane at will and get to the basket. He's a very good downhill player. Carr's a stat stuffer. I think Lucas Taylor can be a very good wing defender. And I think Zach Keller is going to play a lot as a freshman. He shot the 3 really, really well overseas. He can play the 4. He can play the pick and pop 5, kind of like Dallas. I think he's got a really bright future. Team thoughts after overseas. I thought we played hard, played together, encouraged each other, had great spirit. Defensively, we did well in the gaps. That was a point of emphasis this summer. Very rarely hugged up. We got towards the ball. Did a good job of helping to help on penetration. We moved and exchanged on offense, had good spacing, shared the ball, drove the ball, finished off 2 feet. I think we could play with some interchangeable lineups. We can play small, we can play big. I haven't had a chance to coach Bobby Klintman yet. He joined us in London and traveled the whole time with us. Made the all-tournament team in the under 20s where he played at in Tbilisi, Georgia. Just for an example, we could play big. We could, have a point guard. We play Monsanto or Hildreth at the 2. We could probably play Quinton at the 3 sometimes at 6'9", Card at 4 at 6'10", and one of the bigs at the 5, or we could play Keller as 5 as a pick and pop 5 at 6'10". So we've got some interchangeable lineups. We can play small, play, we could play Appleby, Williamson, Ituka. We'll see. But I like, we do have some versatility in our lineup. I thought we did a really poor job of rebounding the basketball. Before our first game in November, we've got 15 1-hour and 20-minute practices in August and September. That's because we can only go 4 hours a week. So we'll go Monday, Wednesday, Friday for an hour 20. That's called skill instruction still. We start official practice on September 26th, Les. That'll be the first day you can come in the gym. That's 42 days before our first game. We'll get 30 practices and 12 days off. That's the NCAA rule. We'll have one scrimmage against Ohio State, one exhibition game against Winston-Salem State. Last thing is thoughts and prayers to Damari Monsanto and his family. His sister was tragically killed in a car accident Sunday morning in Miami. So he's home with his family. And so I hope everybody will send him and his family their thoughts and prayers. I know I covered a lot of ground, but that's what I do. And so I'm opening it up for questions.
Steve, looking at the non-conference schedule that you put out, I know that was a big emphasis for you guys to try and bolster that. When you look at the number of high major opponents that you have, how pleased are you with the way it shook out?
I mean, yeah, it was intentional, but some of it was based on maybe Jake coming back. And I didn't really get final word on that till June 1. And obviously scheduling goes faster than that. So, it's a very challenging schedule, no question. There won't be anybody saying we didn't, we played a soft non-conference schedule like they did last year. And so we'll see. We're going to be challenged. It's going to be good for them. And it'll prepare us for a very rugged ACC, regular season. And it looks like to me maybe the folks in the media woke up and figured out that we did have a really good conference last year, and that we're going to even have probably a better one this year.
Steve, what did you get out of the 2 games the most? What did you like the best about those 2 games? And you mentioned rebounding, I think you were supposed to play 3 or 4 games, right? But only played 2.
Yeah, well, first, I answer your first part of your question. I don't think there's a lot to get out of it, to be honest. And I don't think anybody, if you look at, some of the stats that are being posted, it kind of reminds me of Summer League. We used to have a Summer League in Knoxville, called it the Rocky Top. And we'd have our players going there and average 30, 40 points a game, and then average 2, for the season. So, I don't really look at the opponent. I look at us. I think the things that I covered, I thought we shared the ball. We played hard. We had good spacing. I thought we were in the gaps defensively. That's something we really tried to emphasize this summer. We were connected. But I didn't think we rebounded the ball well, but we didn't rebound the ball well all summer. So it doesn't surprise me. And so those are things that we can build on moving forward, John. And we have it on tape now. That helps to have it on tape against another opponent. I didn't know any of the players from London Lions or Barking Abbey, whatever their name was. And then the team in France, it was just a hodgepodge of guys that, play some academies, some professional basketball. We did press a lot in that game, which I thought was good for us to do that. We were supposed to play a third game, but, we had some people in our traveling party, not players, get COVID, and it's part of it, travel. And so the Dutch national team, which I don't blame them, they just didn't want to risk it. And so, it just gave us an extra day of not having a game. I would have loved to have played the game, and our players really wanted to play the game, but it's just the world that we live in. And I totally understand their decision, not to play the game.
Hey, Coach. Oh,
All right, Kirk, you got it.
good to see you. I got a quick Europe question and I got a basketball question. My quick Europe question is, do you know how many players it was their first time across the pond?
A lot of them. I don't know exactly. It's not really a pond, Christian. It's a pretty big ocean. It takes 8 hours to go across, especially when you're sitting back there with your knees in your face. Yeah, I don't know. I remember asking, but I don't remember the answer. There was a few guys that had been, like Davian went with us at East Tennessee State, I think, and Damari did. I think Ty had with his team somewhere along the way, maybe Florida. I can't remember. It wasn't a lot. And now everybody has a passport, which is good, on our team. And then, to be honest, everybody wants to play in the NBA, and not everybody's going to play in the NBA. And one of the other added features, I think, of going overseas like that is you get a chance to experience the culture. And if you have the opportunity maybe to someday play over there, then you can see, hey, maybe I can do this, or maybe I don't want to do this. And so I think, that's another part of the basketball educational piece of going overseas.
Absolutely. And then second question, in the age of NIL, everyone transferring, to be able to retain 4 guys who were freshmen last year and sophomores this year, and Marsh, Hildreth, Taylor, and McCray. What kind of jumps have you seen from them, and how much do you think they were able to learn from, all the older guys on the team last year?
Yeah, Cam was voted in the top, 5 performers, I believe, this summer. I thought he had a good summer. He's very competitive. He's worked hard on his body. He shot the ball a little bit more consistently. Not maybe he's still got to continue to, improve upon that. I think Matthew's got a chance to be a really good player. It's not his game. It's his motor and his dog mentality. I mean, I want him to demand the ball and play with great passion. And he's got to have a great voice. One of the things that you took for granted maybe with Dallas Walton, he anchored the ball screen defense. And that's a lot of his just quick thinking and communication on where the screen's coming from. Are we icing? Are we over? Are we under? What are we doing? And there's still a little bit of indecision there with him. It's going to happen fast. And so I think he's got to improve on that. I think Lucas has proven his ability to defend. Not that he can't score the ball, but I think his niche and his way on the court is to be a lockdown defender. Rob shot the ball well this summer. Didn't take care of the ball the way he needs to take care of the ball. And for him to get on the court, he's got to take care of the ball. And so, I've seen them improve, but I think there's a lot more left for them to improve. I think they can, and we've got time to do it.
Steve, getting a chance to take a step back and not have to coach guys for the 2 games, is there anything you kind of learned about yourself throughout that process? And is there anything you kind of picked up that, maybe they responded to differently that you didn't really pick up from being the voice in charge?
Ooh, well, honestly, I didn't keep my mouth shut too good. My body language was really bad. Okay. And I'm a really big believer in great body language with our players. And my wife informed me, because I sat kind of against the team from London. I sat on the baseline at a table, and I was doing this a lot. And so my body language was very poor. I did go to the huddle one time against the London Lions and strike a few people, and then went back to my seat. Against the Paris team, I just roamed the sideline the whole time, up and down, and I actually walked out on the court all the way to the other end a couple times, kind of like a scrimmage. So I probably didn't behave myself the way I should have, but I think it's good, for them not to hear me all the time. And I think it was great for Coach Woodley and, Coach Mackey to get a chance to stand up and call timeouts. Those guys are talented people. They're going to be great head coaches. Brooks has already proven that, because Brooks did it, against Georgia Tech and we won the game. And so maybe I'd say I've improved a little bit since my behavior in the living room the night we played Georgia Tech when I had COVID, my family had to leave the room and go downstairs because I wasn't behaving very properly. And so, you know, as I get older, I'll try to mature and learn from my mistakes.
Your wife didn't call it technical on you when you're in the living room like that?
No, but I remember I got a technical in junior high one time, and I came home. My dad said, "If I ever got another technical, you get a worse technical at home." And so, you live and you learn.
Steve, what does a assimilation process look like for Bobby in terms of, do you try to speed things up so that, you know, he can start,
Yeah.
you know, being useful, I guess?
It's a little hard because, you know, he's taking full load of classes, you know, and where in the summer, you don't, you know, what I mean by that is you don't do that in the summer, you know, so he's got more time. So a lot of it will be time management, you know, for him and us trying to work around his classes and all his tutoring and study hall and then, you know, our workouts. But Bobby loves to, you know, he likes to get in the gym. It's not like he didn't play all summer. You know, he played and he practiced. So, but he hasn't done it the way we do it. And so we'll try to get him in here and, you know, on his own a little bit more. And, you know, he's here right now. He's getting in there. I can hear the ball bouncing. Maybe watch film will help him. He's got a high IQ, a really great looking kid, you know, and a great personality. And one of the things watching him playing those games, I really like the way that he rebounded the ball. And I think that'll help us, you know, with one of the shortcomings that we have is I think Bobby will help that some when he's on the court.
I've got a couple other basketball things I'd like to ask you about real quick. You mentioned Andrew Carr being perhaps the best player this summer. It's hard not to look at a guy who's 6'9", 210, and look at some of the percentages as well and not think about the guy he might be replacing in your lineup. What's the best comparison you could make to the type of player Andrew Carr is?
Well, he's 6'10" and a half, 225. He's not 6'9", 210. There's some similarities. Their length. He's taller than Jake. He's not as physical right now as Jake. He shoots the three probably a little bit better than Jake coming in the door. And I don't know if it's better. He just has more confidence doing it. Jake just didn't shoot it a lot. They're both pretty skilled. Jake's probably got a better command of the ball in the open court, bringing it up the court than maybe Andrew's going to do right now. He's younger. He chases the ball on the rim. He's a really aggressive offensive rebounder. I think he's got a chance to be a really, really good player. We recruited him, you know, to come in here and play with Jake or play behind him for a year and thinking that a year later, Jake would be gone, but good for Jake. I mean, he's the 19th pick in the NBA draft. You can't beat that. Yeah, there's some similarities. They're different players, but great size and length at the four. And maybe someday he can play the three because he can move his feet.
And after Texas A&M got left out of the tournament, Greg Sankey was out there last week saying it might be smart given UCLA and Carolina's run and Syracuse's run being one of the last teams into the tournament to perhaps look at, I think the way he put it, a fresh look at the NCAA tournament, talking about expansion. Obviously, you were one of the teams that were right there as well. Would you be in favor of looking at the NCAA tournament in terms of expansion, or do you think it's just too good of a thing to touch?
I don't think it hurts to look. You know, change happens all the time. Look at the landscape of college athletics over the last, months, over the last years. It doesn't mean that what we have isn't great, because obviously that it is, but it doesn't mean that we can't look at things and maybe improve upon it. And so I don't have any problem looking into that and discussing what it looks like to expand the tournament. I mean, it doesn't always mean that the high majors are going to get in either. Again, I go back to my experience at East Tennessee State when I was 29-4, and people were telling me that we had to win the tournament to get in the tournament. Well, that's ridiculous. and so to be 29-5 and not get in. And so there's also mid-majors, if you increase it, you may be a better chance for some of them to get in too, or low majors. I don't know. I mean, I understand what Greg Sankey's saying, and yeah, we wanted to be in it. We deserved to be in it last year, and I feel like we would have won, but it didn't happen. And so there's always going to be people left out in something like that. I think football's going through it, right? They're trying to just increase from 4 to whatever number that is, and I think there's a lot of smart people that look into things like that, and hopefully down the road we'll make a decision to either do it or not.
Steve, I know you're not recruiting Zach Keller if he's not talented, but is he maybe a little more advanced coming in at this stage than you thought he would be?
I don't know, Connor. I really thought he was a good player. He didn't shoot threes in high school very much because he's, playing on a really good high school basketball team. He's a 5-man, but I like having a pick and pop big. And Andrew obviously is that. I think Matthew can, but he really showed it in the games. I mean, I think he made 4 or 5 threes in the 2 games that we played. I don't think he only missed 1 or 2. And it wasn't like he was guarded on a couple of them. He jumped up there and popped them in there. He can move his feet. He's can defend. He takes charges. He's got to improve his ball handling. He's not used to. That's the one thing about playing the 4. He's not going to drive a lot from the 4. He's going to be a ball mover, but he can play the 4 and the 5. And so, yeah, I was really pleased with Zach overseas, and he's had some moments in summer. He had some tough moments, like any freshman. Got hurt, got sick. We all go through that. But I thought he handled the adversity very well, and looking forward to watching him progress as a player. During his career here at Wake Forest.
Steve, you mentioned the exhibition with Winston-Salem State. Do you have a date and a time on that one yet?
Lucy? Well, I know he ain't got a time. I can promise you that. Lucy, we got a date?
We don't yet, John. We'll have an announcement soon about that game.
Sounds good. Thanks.
There you go, John.
Steve, although I know you can't remark upon specific prospects or recruits, just how would you say recruiting is going in terms of prospects picking up on the enhanced facilities and what you guys were able to do last year and those type of things? And then also what kind of hurdles are you facing out there right now too?
I think in recruiting, it goes in this order: NIL, opportunity for playing time, style of play, relationship, facility/education. There's your answer. It's a changing landscape. It's changed immensely since last fall to the spring. It hasn't changed any this summer. And so to me, this is me speaking. I think that, again, the order, what I hear in recruiting, when I have these conversations, and I have many every day, is NIL, opportunity for playing time, style of play, relationship, facilities, education. Now, I would like for it to be facilities, education, relationship, but it's not. And if you don't believe that, you're living on Fantasy Island. And so it's become a little bit more transactional, which I think is sad. But that's where it's at. It's not changing. I heard a lot of people tell me it's not sustainable, and until I see that, I don't believe you. So, sounds good, but I'm the one dealing with it. And so we'll see. We'll keep plugging. One thing about me is I'm a 365-day-a-year guy on recruiting. It won't be over until next probably June, like it was this year. You're going to miss more than you get, and you just keep plugging through hard work, and you'll get the really good players that you want. Right now we got 3 scholarships on paper, and when we write guys, we'll take them. If we don't, we won't. And it's just the way it is. And you're gonna lose more than you win in this business in recruiting, and that's just the way it goes. I don't take it personal, and I don't blame kids for their decisions. It's their decision. And we just got to find the guys that want to be here, and we will. and we're on some really good ones. We've had some great ones visit. We've got some more lined up, and if they work, great. If they don't, we'll keep going. And that's just the way you got to look at it.
Coach, all throughout last year during interviews, it really came across that you liked your team, not just how they played, but you really liked them as people. First of all, I assume that that's true. And this year, do you get any sense that it's like that? And pretty much, is it just like raising kids? Sometimes they're going to drive you crazy like they did over in Europe. And sometimes, you just got to love them no matter what.
Yeah, that's a great question. Each team has its own personality. We had a lot of personality last year, as you guys saw. It came through in when you guys interviewed them or were around them. Dallas had his unique perspective, and Man was always Man. And Jake was pretty serious, and Hadim, and talking like this to everybody. Just they had great personality. I think those things grow as the team grows, right? So this team's probably a little bit quieter because they're younger, and they'll grow into that. And I think that's one of the great things about coaching year to year game. Every team's different, the process is different, but each team finds its own personality, and there's some personality on this team. Now, Ty Appleby, I don't know if he's ever not been talking. And that's a good thing. He likes to talk. Davian talks a heck of a lot more today than he ever did when I met him, 5 years ago. And that poor kid's played for me for 5 years. He needs some type of badge of honor for that. I think you'll find Cam and, some of these returners, Andrew Carr's thoughtful person. It'll all come through. And listen, I bring them here because I like them, right? I don't bring them here because I don't like them. And so it's our choice. And so I've enjoyed them. They're just different. And we'll grow as a team. We'll grow as personalities, as the season goes along. And that's the fun part about it, in my opinion.
Steve, I know you were a big World War II guy. Was there anybody on the team that was remotely as psyched about the historical aspect of the trip as you were?
Very doubtful. Very doubtful. Now they got to cram down the throat, but that's the advantage of being in charge. You get, it's your program. You get to pick what you do, and so I think they really enjoyed it though. I do think a lot of them hadn't seen Saving Private Ryan. I know it's just a movie, but it's a very powerful 20 minutes when the opening scene is powerful. I remember seeing it 1999, maybe summer of, I can't remember. And maybe it was 2000, it was somewhere. I remember walking out of that movie theater. I was in Phoenix, Arizona. It was late and I was exhausted watching that movie. It was just so much, it was powerful. And so I thought that kind of set the tone. I wanted them to understand when you say beach, you think beach, this is not a beach, this is a memorial. And so I think they really grasped that really well when we went there and the way they handled themselves and the questions that they asked. It reminded me when we went to Dachau, when I was with East Tennessee State, and I had a player, Bo Hodges, who's a really good player of the year player. And we'd gone through the whole concentration camp, and he took a couple of players, and I followed them to listen back to the barracks to explain to a couple of players what the hierarchy was of where you stayed, where you slept, where you were at in the bunks. I mean, when you're doing stuff like that and you're paying attention and you learn, that's learning. Okay, you don't have to sit in the classroom to learn. And I think there was a lot of that. I saw Ty Appleby locked in with that guide, asking all kinds of questions. And I know those bomb craters around Point de Hoc, it scared the play. I mean, it didn't scare them, but it caught their attention. Like, wow. I mean, and that was the Germans getting bombed. The Americans bombing the Germans up on that big point. So, then being in the Anne Frank house, you go in there, it's powerful. And you go up behind that bookcase and up those stairs. And that thing is really, really well done. And so I thought those things were really, really powerful, for our players going down underneath in Churchill's war rooms and It's tiny. There's not a lot of space down there for those big fellas. And, you know, understanding that the street's right up there and all those bombs were falling. It's really not that, it wasn't as deep as I imagined. And so, yeah, I think it played well.
Thanks, Coach. It's good to see you, by the way.
Good to see you.
Steve, I kind of want to bring it back to recruiting for a second. I mean, you talked about how things have seemed more transactional, and you kind of joked a little earlier about how you need a vacation from the vacation you were just on. I mean, how much conversation have you had with Curry or even with Dave Foster or other coaches around to really kind of get a sense of like, you know, what is next? Like, what is that next step for how things are going? Because I know no one ever knows, but there's always chat.
I think we're in constant communication about those kind of things. I mean, Dave and I have a tremendous relationship. I mean, obviously I do with John. You know, we talk, we meet. You know, that's one of the nice things about Zoom too. You don't actually have to be here to meet. You know, we recruited while we were overseas the whole time. You know, so we have those conversations, and the thing about it is, and football is different than basketball. They're different sports. There's different. It's just different. There's a lot of numbers in football. There's less numbers in basketball. In basketball, there's way more options for players to decide to play professionally early in their career. If you think about high school basketball, when you have the overtime league that takes maybe 30 people, then you have the G League at night that maybe takes 10 or 12. There's 40 or 42, 40 some players already off the top that aren't going to play college basketball. Okay. And then you can go one and done, or you can go overseas. And so football players got to stay for 3 years. They don't have a choice. And so it's a different mindset to get to the professional level. They want to get there quicker. They want to get there faster. And, you know, they want to be, you know, they want to be rewarded for it. And so it's just, while we do have commonality in some things, there's a lot where there's not. And so I think that's why, you know, we share information, but, you know, I don't pretend to understand football. It's way bigger, more people, a lot more management, where mine is a lot more, you know, 13 guys and on scholarship.
Anything else for Coach?
Yeah, I wanted to jump in, and after the regulars were all done. Good to see you again, Steve. And I apologize, I jumped in late when you were in the middle of recapping Europe, but the idea that this team has had the roster turnover that it has, with guys going pro, being drafted, that sort of thing, and you just talked about all the youth that was that you've got to deal with this year. How valuable, invaluable was that time away across the Atlantic, and you know, and just getting these guys to know each other and become that family that you're going to want to hit the floor with?
Extremely valuable. And that's why we did it. You know, again, you know, I've talked a lot about the educational piece, the basketball piece, but then there's the chemistry piece that is might be the most important piece, to be quite honest. And, you know, not only for this season, but for years to come. Like I can tell you, just my players in the past, they still talk about the trip that we went on. I mean, it's a life-changing experience. I'm not even going to get close to saying this will happen, because it won't, but the 2 times I've gone, we come back and won 30 or more. Now, we had older team, we had experienced team, but the chemistry got so much better because they're spending that time together with no distractions, just them, you know, and finding and going out and exploring and finding new things, and, you know, staying off their phone as much, you know, even though I doubt that's probably not capable of that, but yeah, the chemistry is really, really important. And we've always had really good chemistry. And I think when you see guys hanging out with guys that don't typically maybe hang out together, then they figure out that, you know, they do have more in common than what they think. And so I do think there's a lot of power with that when it comes to these type of trips.
Thank you. That was the only one I had.
Anything else? All right, looks like that's it for today.
Excellent.
All right.
Thanks, guys.